gave some gave all. This Memorial Day, we honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms of every American. My own grandfather, retired Lieutenant Colonel Rod Husey, influenced my own decision to sign up for the Army Reserves, joining the 413th Civil Affairs Battalion during the mid-90s until the early 2000s. Millions of men and women have donned the uniform, but not everyone came home. Every single one has a story. Tonight, we remember some of the fallen across Central Texas and the Brazos Valley. The loss of a fellow service member can happen in an instant, but the pain and memory of their deaths on the battlefield stay with combat vets forever. Every Memorial Day, many of those who have worn the uniform pay their respects in a tradition going back to the Romans. Andrew Lemparski spoke with 2 Vietnam vets, paying their own respects for the fallen.
Thousands of names, thousands of stories.
Everybody has a different story.
It's here at the Central Texas State Veterans Cemetery in Killeen, where Marty Martinez and Guadalupe Lopez sit, reflecting on their time in Vietnam.
A good 40 years we've been friends. I've known them, that's how long I've known them. Although I would say, where did the years go?
Their service overseas marked by brotherhood, but also marked by loss.
Especially one of them, he was an officer that was serving with me.
There are memories of the war Sergeant Major Lopez doesn't speak about.
I remember this vividly, that walking out with the chopper, and I was hollering, "Hey, Captain, your weapon!" And no, don't worry, Top, don't worry. Yeah. 10, 15 minutes later, we got the call. The chopper went down.
He's since turned his grief into reverence.
That's history, but I love to honor everybody that had passed away.
Memorial Day is a day to celebrate those heroes through ceremony and tradition. Behind me, rows of heroes laid to rest. In a Memorial Day tradition dating back centuries, coins left on headstones tell families someone was there to pay their respects. Here, I have a penny, which lets a family know someone stopped by to visit. A nickel left behind by someone who completed basic training with them. A dime left behind by someone who served alongside the soldier. And finally, a quarter, left behind by someone who was there when they died.
The coin is a form of respect, I would say.
The tradition has origins all the way back to the Romans and became popular in the U.S. during the Vietnam War.
To leave something, and of course flowers was not something good that you could leave there because it would disappear.
These coins helping to keep the memories of fallen soldiers alive. Memories of the ultimate sacrifices that Lopez and Martinez witnessed with their own eyes.
The individual that was next to me in a firefight got killed. This is why it is a very special day for me.
He only had 10 days left. And one of those things, that happen.
Here at the Central Texas Cemetery, the coins are collected and saved. For these vets, it's about more than a penny or a dime or a quarter. It's about remembering the names and the stories.
Husbands, sons, daughters.
Of those who gave their lives for our country.
Honoring our fallen service members was first observed in various towns in 1864 to honor those killed in the Civil War. The first national celebration was called Decoration Day in 1868. It became a national holiday May 19, 1966. Congress declared the official name of Memorial Day in 1967. A year later, Congress moved Memorial Day from May 30th to the last Monday in May. Most veterans don't come home to a ticker tape parade. Many of our fallen have a more somber homecoming. But for a few, that final trip home was decades from when they fell. Nick Bradshaw spoke to the family of a World War II airman returning home to Texas nearly 80 years later.
May.
Well, see, then I'm back here.
Oh, okay, well then it's farther up here. Okay, there's January.
For nearly 80 years, a Texas family living with a loss.
42. We've just kept it alive all these years.
A sister left without answers.
My last letter to him, I have it, and he said, how are you enjoying your vacation? Why don't you come see me? He said, I'll take you flying on my plane.
A message sent decades ago, but Helen Palmical never had a chance to reply.
Target, Ploiești, center of Romania's oil industry and the richest oil fields in Europe.
Romania, 1943. America's war against Nazi Germany in full swing. Teenagers signed up to fight.
They wanted to protect the United States. It was really important to them.
Among them, Louis Gerard of West Texas, the 18-year-old putting his dreams on hold at A&M for a pilot seat in a B-24 Liberator.
He had high expectations of coming home, and it just didn't happen that way.
You see, the Nazis knew the planes were coming. Gerard's heavy bomber shot down in Romania.
It hurts, but he was doing what he loved.
His family robbed of the chance to say goodbye.
I guess they didn't have him in a grave, or had him in a grave with another unknown soldier that died on that plane that they couldn't identify.
But 79 years later, hope.
I was shocked because I didn't think that. We thought he was buried in Italy.
The military said they found her brother.
They sent the DNA samples to my sister in Dallas and then to me, and we filled it out, and that was about 3 years ago.
Earlier this month, they got a match.
I'm still in shock.
West Texas, a small town with big pride for our military.
And it's a close-knit, tight town. Everybody really supports our veterans.
Ready to welcome home its hero long after the war's end.
We're happy and excited for the family, especially his sister Helen, who finally gets to bring her brother home and lay him to rest properly. So we're really excited for her, and we're honored just to be a part of it.
The people here honoring one of their own. His body to be finally laid to rest in June, next to his parents and brother.
It was just, he was so important to us.
His memory and sacrifice continues on through letters sent back to Texas.
30th of June. Okay, we need to go.
A memory kept alive by his family.
This is the last one. Got up and moved all my X to C, whatever that is. We are flying C, and the big job is tomorrow. The general spoke to us, and he said that this was the biggest job of the war, and that it will be shortened, and it will be shortened with the war by months. If this raid is successful, we are getting up at 4 a.m. It's a 12-hour run. Louis, I need plenty of luck on this one.
One of this nation's most regarded institutions, Gold Star families, which come with a cost that no military family should want to pay. Adam Schindler introduces us to two Central Texas families feeling their loved ones lost this Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, a day to remember those who donned our country's uniforms, knowing that decision could be life-changing. While some Central Texans make an annual trip to the local veterans cemetery, others head to Fort Hood to remember the loved ones they've lost and see them once again stand in formation.
Each booth is going to have a tag on there, and it's going to have a picture of the fallen hero as well as their name and their date of death.
Not only is every single pair of boots out here representing a fallen soldier, nearly every pair was worn by that soldier.
It gives Gold Star family members like Susan Hernandez a solemn place to remember Sergeant Irving Hernandez Jr., the husband she lost in 2006.
He was shot by a sniper, and he fought for his life, from what I heard, for 20 minutes, and he didn't make it. They took fire, and he was killed.
Not only was Sergeant Hernandez a beloved husband and father, he was the kind of soldier that proudly put his life on the line for his country.
That day, he volunteered for a mission, to go on a mission, and he was 2 weeks from coming home, and it ended his life.
Jennifer Warner is a Gold Star family member who lost her husband, Staff Sergeant Daniel Warner, who was found unconscious in his barracks in 2010.
The Army, according to the autopsy, he said that he passed away accident because of mix of drugs, of all the medication. So it was hard for me to accept it that he was gone.
Staff Sergeant Warner hadn't told his wife that he was receiving medical treatment after his last deployment, knowing it would only make her worry. Now that he's gone, having his boots on the field among thousands of fallen service members is bittersweet.
It means a lot because, you know, he's being honored, all his sacrifices, his legacy, and he's not forgotten.
A sentiment shared by others whose loved ones paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Not only him, there are other friends that we have lost, you know, friends we have met along the way that their husbands are out there that we honor as well. So the boot display means a lot to us, not just me, but other Gold Star families as well.
All have a similar message for the loved ones they've lost.
Just know that, you know, we do love and miss you every day. My children love and miss you every day.
He was my strength. He was my joy. He makes me happy. And I just miss him. I just miss him so much.
Sergeant Irving Hernandez Jr. and Staff Sergeant Daniel Warner are among the thousands of fallen service members whose boots fill the field in front of 3 Corps headquarters every year. A solemn display to honor those who put on our nation's uniform and paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Get this. Over 1.2 million Americans have died in combat since the start of the American Revolution. Over 700,000 of those happened since the turn of the 20th century. 116,000 in World War I, over 400,000 in World War II, 54,000 in Korea, 90,000 in Vietnam, almost 2,000 in the Gulf War, and over 7,000 Americans have been killed in the wars on terror. The Lone Star State is getting ready to honor our nation's bravest heroes, thanks to a brand new museum. When we return, we highlight what it means for Texas and those who have earned the nation's highest military honor. Plus, Texas A&M University is steep in military tradition, but there might be one area dedicated to our heroes not many people know about. The U.S. Armed Forces currently has over 1.3 million service members. Now think about how many men and women have put their lives on the line over the last 250 years for this great nation. Of those millions, only 3,500 have earned the nation's highest military honor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now our nation's heroes will have a home right here in Texas.
Where did we find such men? We find them where we've always found them. In our villages and towns, on our city streets, in our shops and on our farms.
Their actions were clearly above and beyond the call of duty.
Their love of country and devotion to each other was always clear.
Where there is a brave man in the thickest of the fight, there is the post of honor.
For over 160 years, it symbolized America's bravest, the Congressional Medal of Honor. In a country of over 330 million people, only 64 Americans today hold this highest honor.
Well, as military members, we all know what the Congressional Medal of Honor means and stands for, and the tremendous acts of courage and sacrifice and bravery that it takes to even be considered for the medal, let alone be approved and awarded the medal.
Their courage and gallantry on the battlefield put them in a select distinction. Our nation's elite heroes now have a home to recognize their sacrifice and inspire all Americans to preserve our way of life. A new home right here in Texas. Located in Arlington, the National Medal of Honor Museum will cover over 100,000 square feet, telling Medal of Honor stories for those past and living, using technology to keep their memory alive.
You want people to be inspired in some way. So a connection with some future person that's going to serve in the military, some future military service member, for instance, who sees, hey, I'm from, East Texas too, and that person went to the nearby school as I did, and maybe I could someday do something so cool.
The man leading the effort is no stranger to exceptionalism. Chris Cassidy, the museum's president and CEO, served for nearly 3 decades in the Navy, including 11 years as a Navy SEAL.
So I'm about 9 months into this role here at the foundation, but prior to that, I spent about 28 years in the U.S. Navy.
Houston, Endeavor, roll program. Roger, roll, Endeavor.
The Navy SEAL program stands for Sea, Air, and Land, but for Cassidy, that wasn't enough. The Special Warfare Operator took his next mission into outer space.
In both cases, it's a small group of people trying to accomplish a risky mission together and do it safely and effectively with the support of a whole bunch of people.
Back on Earth, Cassidy says his new mission is to build the museum by 2024. Still, it's the same values of teamwork and service that our military holds sacred.
It's deeper than that. It's about sharing these amazing stories with people, and our museum journey is starting right now as we're doing this process.
So you mentioned patriotism and that immense pride. With the museum holding this right here, with the turmoil of our country right now, you think this is a unifying thing?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, we talked about the unanimous vote through the House and the Senate last year to authorize our monument. That and bipartisan support of 4 past presidents. And then just, it doesn't matter what state, what political lean you have, your connection to the Medal of Honor and the people and the stories is instant. And it goes deeper and beyond any part of political divides.
Located just feet away from where the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers play, the museum will be in the path for thousands to walk through its halls each year.
That is the center of the National Medal of Honor Museum and the future home.
So as far as construction, how long have you been doing it? Where are we right now? And then when's completion?
Medal of Honor Day is March 25th, and that was our groundbreaking ceremony, both in a ceremonial way, and then the very next day we started what you see here. So we've been going at it for 2 months now, and it's a roughly 2.5-year build to November of 2024.
So how can people get online and see progress of this? How can they be involved?
Our website, mohmuseum.org. You can go there, learn more about the project. If you're interested in supporting, you can click Donate Now. In fact, every dollar helps, and don't go to Starbucks tomorrow and give us the $6.95. We'll take it.
The building's steel exterior made up of metal forged with heat and pressure, representing the Medal of Honor's own story, forged in the fire of combat. 5 concrete pillars will lift the center of the museum, casted in Hillsboro. They stand in place of the nation's 5 service branches that have received the Medal of Honor. Finally, a place for our nation's bravest heroes to call home, right here in the heart of Texas. The first military action to earn the Medal of Honor was February 13, 1861, by Bernard Irwin in Arizona. Congress first introduced legislation for a Medal of Honor back on December 9, 1861, and President Lincoln signed a law creating the Army Medal of Honor on July 12, 1862. The first Medals of Honor were given on March 25, 1863 to 6 people. Private Jacob Parrott given the first. Only 19 people have been awarded the medal twice. Current rules say recommendations for the Medal of Honor must be made within 3 years of the action, and the medal must be presented within 5 years. Each year, 5 private citizens are selected for the Citizen Honors. Anyone who places his or her life in danger through an act of extraordinary heroism or selfless act can be nominated. Once nominated, a panel from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society selects finalists. Then a second panel of Medal of Honor recipients goes through the list of finalists and decides the honorees. Texas A&M University was built on the foundation of our country's military. Nearly 146 years later, those values continue to be the core of what it means to be an Aggie. This Memorial Day, our Paige Ellenberger takes us on campus, where students and visitors can pay their respects to America's bravest.
You're here today because of these men and women behind me, but it really just makes me feel grateful and thankful for the country that I live in today.
Tucked inside the Memorial Student Center at Texas A&M.
All these people did unbelievable things.
Etched in glass.
Sacrificed the greatest thing that they could in their lives to just make sure that I have the freedom, the rights, the opportunities that I have given today.
Illuminated both day and night.
It provides a lot of perspective on how great our lives actually are.
459 names, Aggie Angels, who gave their lives for our country.
So just being able to come to a university when they place so much emphasis and so much respect towards our members in the service just really makes walking around this campus and living here that much more special to me.
Staring at those names, just a few steps away, 8 men in one hallway with 2 pieces of hardware in common, an A&M ring and a Medal of Honor.
One of the biggest parts is remembering everything that's happened and memorializing those people who have allowed you to be to this spot.
The faces.
We tell the story of Clarence Hugh Sasser because his story is just so amazing.
And stories.
He rendered aid for 5 hours to his fellow Army men, even though shots were still firing overhead.
Are on display to remind everyone, not just on Memorial Day, of these American heroes who received the highest military decoration.
This more somber stop on our tours really just gets the mindset right for some of our visitors and realize, wow, this university really cares.
And those who gave it all.
You're never going to mean nothing. You're always going to be somebody who matters to Texas A&M.
Central Texas is home to one fallen hero who made history, a name you most likely have heard of before, Doris Miller. But do you know the true story of the man behind the stories? We talk with his family next. Few men or women have made Central Texas more proud, like Doris Miller. A recipient of the Navy Cross, Miller's story of bravery during World War II is widely known these days. But that wasn't always the case. As 25 News anchor Todd Unger found out, his family is committed to making sure his name is never forgotten.
It's hard to imagine it not being here. A Waco fixture dedicated to all those who served. But for the driving forces behind it, the mission to honor the memorial's namesake was decades in the making.
Big man, but so was my grandmother.
Sisters Henrietta and Flo Miller spend a lot of time together, often thinking about their uncle.
I'm always in awe. I'm always in awe.
Hearing the story of Doris Miller does that to you.
How did he do that? How did he get that machine gun and do what he done?
December 7th, 1941, Miller is a mess cook aboard the West Virginia, anchored in Pearl Harbor. As the Japanese sweep in with their surprise attack, Miller rushes above deck, helping the wounded before manning an anti-aircraft gun for which he had zero training.
He chose to fight. He chose to fight.
Miller survived only when an African-American run paper on the East Coast revealed his name did the story of his heroism begin to spread.
It was a lacerations, and he was only allowed to be a mess person. So, you know, of course, when you hear about a sailor, they certainly didn't think it was him because that wasn't one of his duties.
Soon, the Navy sent him to tour selling war bonds before he was again stationed in the Pacific, later killed in action.
He kind of opened up the doors for others to be able to man guns and be trained in other positions other than just being in the mess hall.
For nearly 80 years, his family has carried the legacy forward. There are books, schools, the memorial, and now even an aircraft carrier under construction that all bear the Waco native's name. But they aren't finished.
We have made a commitment amongst ourselves that we would pass down this and make sure that the younger generation is actively involved.
There's a renewed effort underway to honor Miller with the Congressional Medal of Honor. It remains to be seen if that ever happens in these divided times. The family hopes one man's remarkable courage might serve as a unifying force for the country as it has for them.
Go to bed every night and wake up every morning knowing this is a free world because my uncle had something to do with it.
A Central Texas hero who continues to inspire all these years later.
Miller's legacy will continue on for the foreseeable future. The U.S. Navy has started building the USS Doris Miller. The nuclear aircraft carrier had its first steel cutting in August. The ship is set to be completed in 2032. The Doris Miller is the first aircraft carrier to be named after an enlisted sailor and the first name for an African American. A frigate was named after Miller back in the late 60s. The ship served until the early 90s before it was sold to Turkey. It was sunk in 2001 as a target during a training exercise. Whenever someone loses a loved one, their presence often lingers long after they're gone through collectibles and clothing. It can be overwhelming to decide what to do with things they once loved. 25 News reporter Leah McNeil introduces us to one widow who now has a priceless keepsake of her late husband, all thanks to one local artist.
At the end of a winding road, you'll find Carla and Dee's Junction. Total population 4.
He loves eagles. We have red, white, and blue everywhere.
A patriotic piece of paradise.
We actually met on 4th of July, so we chose to get married on 4th of July.
At Carla and Detlef Coots called home.
Good memories, because not enough pictures were taken.
But when the kids left the nest, 4 became 2.
We both liked the outdoors, so I'd be out there helping him. Get rocks to make our gardens and just plant flowers. We had vegetable garden.
Sergeant First Class Coots served our country for 2 decades. However, it was Operation Desert Storm that changed things.
In 2012, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and they just told us it wasn't service connected. But he didn't have reflux before he went to Desert Storm. He had it when he came back. I think something happened over there that nobody knows, and he paid the price.
18 months later, he lost his battle to cancer. Then 2 became 1.
You know, when my mother died, it hurt. When my dad died, it really hurt because I was daddy's girl, okay? But I had my husband to lean on. When my husband died, I really had nobody to lean on. My world as I knew it was suddenly gone in a flash.
Everywhere she turned,
and then this is his Bronze Star hat,
was a reminder of her husband.
Topaz and ruby for mine and his birthdays. He had so many shirts, and I was just one day thinking, what could I do with this? And then I had seen something about Laura making quilts.
I really love this fabric.
Those reminders, now priceless works of art.
You make the memories, I make the quilts.
Quilts created from t-shirts her husband once wore.
You're giving peace and love to people through the fabrics. It's a healing process.
Laura Winkle has channeled her own loss into hundreds of memory quilts.
My husband and I have experienced the loss of 8 children through miscarriages, stillborn, and the loss of our little girl who was 3 when God needed to take her home. It's a real honor. Sometimes you worry, are they gonna like it? And then they come in and they look at the quilt and they go, that's my dad. That's my mom.
It just represented who he is. It represents who he is. One of the ones she's making right now, it's specifically for me because the center square will be the material from the shirt that we got married in, that he married me in.
And I'm working on those as we speak. Very patriotic and lots of train fabric. He collected trains. He had a whole room full of trains.
I have not been in this room since 2013 when he died.
But Carla is still on her own journey to healing.
Some people tell you there's 7 stages of grief. I'm here to tell you there's more, a lot more.
With her husband's presence still lingering.
Little triggers trigger you. Smells, sounds, songs.
Now wrapped around her.
And something to hold on to.
On a patriotic piece of paradise. At the end of a winding road.
He'll be gone 9 years in November, but it's still sometimes it's like yesterday.
Carla and Dee's Junction still stands with a population of 1.
Honoring the lives of our fallen heroes is not only for Memorial Day. All of us can find ways each day to remember the price they paid. From all of us at 25 News and KRHD, thank you for having us in your homes this Memorial Day.
It remains a day to honor those who died defending our freedom and democracy.
They were mothers, they were fathers, they were daughters, and they were sons. They were sisters, and they were brothers. Everyone here that gave their life belongs to someone. And everyone here belongs to this great nation.